Well, there's a lot of cricket going on at the moment, and the headlines have been grabbed, probably rightly by England, having a test series against India. But there's lots of other stuff going on. And the one that, to me, seems to be the one that has gone furthest under the radar is the Under-19 World Cup, which is going on down in South Africa. Now, my old mate, Charlie Dagnall, is down there covering it. So I thought, let's get him along and get up to speed with what's been going on. Good to see you, Charlie. How are you?
Yeah, really well. Thank you. Nice to be back. What you actually meant was my good friend Charles Dagnall is doing literally nothing. He's lying on a bed and he'll have 10 minutes to talk to me. And you're right. You're more than right. But I'm only too happy to speak to you again, mates. And yeah, it has gone under the radar given the amount of cricket that's on. But goodness me, we've seen some seriously good stuff down there.
Absolutely. Now, it just sort of occurred to me that, you look at senior England players at whatever format, and we're not going to get into a format debate, but there are a lot of players that are kind of on the, shall we say, the victory lap of their careers. So that makes me think, well, let's have a look at the conveyor belt and where's the next lot of top stars are going to come from. And this under-19 sort of era of players seems to be throwing up quite a few future stars. I know there's a couple that you picked up. I've just looked at your Twitter feed and seen there's a couple there, but England do seem to be have an embarrassment of riches amongst the youngsters at the moment.
Yes, they do. If only they could have put it into performances and reached the semi-finals. Did they have the talent to make the semi-finals? Absolutely. They just completely stuffed it up against the West Indies, and that's not to denigrate what the West Indies did. They played beautifully, but I think England were too giving of their wickets away, too many soft dismissals, and it was almost of the opinion that, well, if I get out, don't worry, someone else is going to get them, and no one actually did. And that was in the final group game, which meant the Super Sixes, as it turned out, and England were in a pretty tough group, but one that they would have been expected to win, with the West Indies, with South Africa, and with Scotland. And so when you talk about embarrassment of riches, yes, to a certain degree. Is the talent there? Goodness me, yeah. I mean, they have got some seriously good players. But did that all necessarily come together, given the format of this tournament? You don't go through in top spot and then you're asking about net run rate and you're hoping for a result here and there to potentially go your way. So the way that the tournament is sorted out, Australia cruised through their group, they're top of the table. India cruised through theirs, Pakistan cruised through theirs. And when you go into the Super Six stages of the tournament, you're in a really, really good position to make the semi-finals. You've got to do something criminal not to make the semi-finals. And as we've seen, one going on right now as I talk to you, India are taking on South Africa, but because of England's defeat to the West Indies, that really opened the door for the teams in that group, and South Africa have taken huge advantage of it with a stunning win against Scotland. They then overcame Sri Lanka, and by then they were already in, England being defeated by Australia. So yes, they've got an embarrassment of riches, but it didn't necessarily come together, in this comp. But let me tell you, there's one or two that are unbelievably good. And here's a stat for you, Moots. And I'm not big on stats, as well but I thought this was an interesting one. 27% of all the players that have played in the Under-19 World Cup have gone on to represent their countries internationally. That is an alarming percentage. So when I come down here and do the Under-19 World Cup, I'm thinking, well, these are the players that we're going to be seeing for the next decade or so. And that's not to mention those who go on to have good first-class careers, domestic careers, and the rest of it. I would imagine that percentage rises hugely. Most of the lads within the England staff and on many of the countries have already played some form of first-class cricket. So it really is the bedrock of where the talent comes from.
Yeah, it's a good point. This current West Indies revival that's going on, which is welcome to everyone in the cricketing world. But again, yes, you look through that current squad, there's a lot of players there that were at the Under-19 World Cup, even last time round. It's a real breeding ground.
They are, and it's very interesting. We get given, because obviously we come out here and cover the games and stuff, but we don't know really who anyone is. You know, the cricket I cover is, you know, the Vitality Blast or the 100 or the Women's Internationals or whatever it may be. And those who are either playing second team cricket or pathway academy cricket, you don't really get to see. So we're learning as we go for a lot of these players. Now, what they do is to give us a little bit of an indication of their character and where they're from and how they like to play their cricket and how they envisage what sort of players inspire them or who do they liken themselves to. They answer all these questionnaires. It's like a double A4 sided sheet of questionnaires, and we get to learn. And so many, and this is interesting, you know, you look at a lot of the West Indies players and a lot of the sort of Zimbabwe players, those from not outside of the big three, a lot of their answers, where do you see yourself? What's your ambition? So IPL, 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 franchise cricket, want to be a and very few, I say very few, it's a real mixed bag, but a good portion see their future in franchise cricket. Not necessarily the first thing on the list being their national team. Now, that's no blame on them. That is absolutely a legitimate answer to give. But it is sort of eye-opening when you think, well, the first thing I want to do is represent my country at a senior level. But such is the case with finances in the game and the way that the game is structured, that a lot of lads actually see their future being franchise players. And it was noticeable in a couple of the West Indies batters who they look sensational moves. There's a lad called Jordan Johnson, and he gets to the crease and he looks like there's no trouble, and he gives it a good old biff and he makes 20 yard and then gives it away, trying to hit the next one for 4 and the next one for 6, because I imagine that's where he sees his future. So it's kind of sad because it's not for a lack of talent. There's talent there. There's some good players there. But sadly, you know, we'll so. But let's, and I'm using the West Indies as an example. That there's obviously lots of other nations that I'm out here. But as regards talent, yeah, plenty of it.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Johnson. We had Roland Butcher on over Christmas, and he highlighted Johnson, and he also highlighted Shamar Joseph. I don't know what became of him.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah, I don't think he'll make it personally. But there's a couple of West Indies cricketers, if we're on the topic. Nathan Seeley, left arm spinner, like him. He's got a bit of attitude and a bit of character, and he's a good left arm spinner. Tariq Edward, off spinner, is very useful indeed. I thought he's bowled better than his figures say. And Nathan Edward, little all rounder. He bowls a little bit like Sam Curran in that kind of left arm swing, but he's accurate. He can bat. And the captain, Stefan Pascal. Now I expect to be in West Indies colours. I give it maybe 3 or 4 years of he's not ready yet, but that kid's got something. He really does. Jewel Andrew, we watched the wicketkeeper score a brilliant 130 against South Africa. Wasn't chanceless, but he took his opportunity and almost took West Indies to victory over them. So yeah, lots to just keep an eye out from the West Indies. But obviously from England, I have to say I was slightly underwhelmed by their seamers. Maybe we didn't get to see the best of them. I like Eddie Jack, big, hulky. God, he's built like a wardrobe, this dude. He's from Hampshire. And he really does hit the pitch hard, and he's got some pace, and I liked him, but he didn't bowl in the power play. That's a little sort of asterisk there that I'd like to have seen him bowl in the power play. But for me, the Ben McKinney, the captain, Durham, left-hander, it's like watching Truscothic. It's seriously good timer of a cricket ball. Again, gives his wicket away a little bit too softly, but goodness, he's 6'6". He's just got very simple technique. But the two that really blew my mind were the two spinners. And I think these kids, if you packed these two kids, Moots, off to India tomorrow, they wouldn't do a lot worse than who's out there. And even though the guys out there have done really, really well, I think the talent of these two kids is that good.
They're
Farhan
frighteningly
Ahmed,
young as well, aren't they?
oh, they are. Farhan Ahmed, who's Rahan's brother, and he's on the Knots pathway. He's an off spinner, and he is just a beautiful bowler. He bowls, he gives it a rip, he gets his fingers over the ball, he gets extra bounce, he's got a brilliant arm ball, and he's 16. Now, I
Yeah.
know we're watching these players within their peer groups, but you just look at a player sometimes and go, yeah, this kid's got it. I'm sorry, you can put him into any situation, and I think he'd deal with it really well. Farhan is one. The other is Taz Ali, the Warwickshire leg spinner. And not only does he rip his leggy and rip his googly, but he is unwaveringly accurate. And for a leg spinner, that is a good thing. You think, now and again, you're going to get a full bunger or a half tracker or something. He doesn't bowl many. He really doesn't. I think top batters would pick him, but I think that is something that he will learn to disguise better over the course of time. I fully expect to see both of these kids playing first-class cricket somewhere this year. Whether Farhan goes on loan or something goes down the road to Leicester or whatever, or if not to use him, and Taz as well. And the other player is, and we didn't get to see a lot of him because there was a few headlines surrounding him in the previous game. Against Zimbabwe, the last one that England played, and that is Hamza Sheikh from Warwickshire. And goodness me, is this player easy on the eye? I mean, he has some lovely, languid strokes, effortless timing, and so much time at the crease. He's got time to burn. But he went and picked up the ball from where the popping crease was. He thought it was dead. He picked it up. He gave it to the wicketkeeper, and they appealed for obstruction of the field, and off he went. So it's a good job that didn't cause many ructions within the cricketing world, did it? Anyway, we move on. But the kid can play. The kid can really play. So plenty to keep an eye on, Moose.
Yeah, and from an Essex point of view, Essex have got three youngsters out there: Charlie Allison, Luke Benkenstein, and Noah Thane, who seem to have done okay. They haven't had any
good
shockers from what I've seen so far.
No, I really like Allison. I like them all, to be honest. But I thought that we didn't see the best of Benkenstein. He bowled okay in the first one, but he is a leg spinner that you are going to get some, a mixed bag. He'll bowl you an absolute ripping jaffer, and then you might get a full bunger and a half tracker in the same over kind of thing. So he would, for me, needs to work on his consistency a bit. And we didn't see him at all really with the bat. He didn't perform the way he would have liked. Noah Thane looks a good looking player. Bowls a bit of medium pace. I mean, it's occasional medium pace, I would have thought, to be honest. His batting is his strong suit, but looks very organised at the crease. He's got the game. He hits 360. Predominantly a little bit more through the offside. But again, good head on his shoulders. Essex will be very, very pleased with what they've got coming through with him. But I like Allison. I like Charlie Allison. I think he is a good-looking player. He has plays spin really well, got a great slog sweep on him, and he manipulates the field nicely. He's like many of these players coming out of academies now. They've got all the shots. Darren, they've got all of them. They've got the paddles, the sweeps, the reverses, the slog sweeps, the hits over the top. They're little tricks that white ball cricket need. They seem to be sort of emanating and being spurted out of the academies with all of these shots. So I think sometimes the England players, I know it sounds ridiculous to say that sometimes you can have too many, and you think that you've got to play them all, where actually you don't. You can just pick and choose the ones that work for you in a particular when the situation calls for it. But yeah, Essex will be very, very pleased. 3 there, 3 from Warwickshire, a couple from Lancashire. I mean, there was another Warwickshire player that I liked called Theo Wiley, who was a seamer. and he bowls left arm spin, a bit like not built like Ashley Giles, but he used to be a seamer, and then he converted to left arm spin, took 4 for against Australia, and he gives it a nudge at the top of the order. But yeah, lots to come through, and I go through all of those players, Darren, and I tell you, I just think, goodness me, I'm sorry, but you've stuffed this up. There is the talent and there is the quality to have potentially won this competition, and I think they will be going home pretty annoyed with themselves.
Yeah. Yes, and it was for, as you say, there were 1 or 2 results where they kind of let it slip a little bit. Where if they'd have performed just that little bit more, they would still be there in these in the final stages. Now, we're used to seeing you on foreign shores and in fantastically luxurious hotels. Tell me you've got your bass guitar with you.
I have got my bass guitar with me. It is just situated. It's next to the bath, which, given the standard of my playing at this current moment in time, actually is where I might just fill the bath and put it in. But no, it is getting plucked. I usually have an early evening pluck on the bass, where the temperature outside is quite nice, around about 5 or 6 o'clock. I just take it outside and have an hour to myself. I love taking it with me, because after you're going through all the cricket and you're travelling all over, then it's been quite an intense period. With I think it was 11 games I did in 14 days and all 50 over cricket, and it was brilliant. Absolutely loved it, with travel in between. But now and again, you just need a minute, like anybody does. You just need a minute, and what better thing to play bad notes or the wrong notes, as is my want on the bass. So yes, it's there, and it's sort of begging to people. It's asking me. It's looking at me now, just going, "Come on, do you fancy an hour?" But I've got to watch the cricket. So maybe
it's a sad week for bass players around the world, because we've lost Aston Family Man Barrett, who was the bass player of the Whalers, which interesting stat with him, 43 children.
Yeah, I mean, things seem to work in that department. So yes, but I'm very pleased to say that that's where we differ. And just the one for me.
Yeah, it's very sad news, and I think if anyone that's listening to this doesn't know who he is, if you just think of any Bob Marley track, any of them, it would be Family Man playing the bass on his Fender Jazz. I think was his preferred axe, wasn't it?
It was, and that is what I have. But trust me, the sounds that emanate from mine are not the same as Family Man's bass at all, categorically.
All right. Where are you up to next after you finish this competition?
Get home, and then we shall wait and see. Not sure what's going on as yet, but fingers crossed there will be another trip in the offing very, very soon indeed. But I'll be keeping across everything that's going on. Obviously, the WPL is coming up, and England women have got a trip to New Zealand. They've got some one-days and T20s over in New Zealand, so I'll be keeping across that. And soon after that, there'll be the 100 draft and all of those sort of things. So yes, lots to look forward to.
Okay, Charles Dagnall from South Africa. Brilliant to talk, and we'll catch up soon.
Will do. Cheers, mates.